It's so good to be back with you all as we kick off a new fall semester in ABF. We got a lot of great things on hand this semester, but we got a great kickoff this morning. And how many of you are familiar with Cal Baptist University? You got family members out there, and yeah, you should be familiar a little bit. What is it? Go Lance? Is that?
Lance up.
Lance up. All right. See, I don't know the lingo. But nonetheless, let's give our special guest, Dr. Micah Parker, our ABF welcome this morning, because we're glad to have him here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this is a treat for us because, as you know, we have a lot of students that we send out to Cal Baptist. Even if you didn't know, even Joseph Lopez, our worship leader and director here, he just graduated from CBU or is about to graduate from there. So we send quite a few up to 91, which is a hard highway sometimes. But this morning it was okay, though, right?
It was great.
It was great. It was great. So we got a lot of great things that we want to chat with Dr. Micah Parker about. But I'd love to always, as we do, give the opportunity to start off with getting to know him, his background. And so, Dr. Parker, I'll pass it over to you. We'd love to hear your testimony and a little bit about your upbringing, and then we'll get more into some current ministry, if you don't mind.
Sure. I've lived a very unique life. I like to tell people I've been unfairly blessed with both great things and some difficult things. I was born in Papua New Guinea. You geography fans know that's the second largest island in the world. It's right above Australia. My father was a missionary there. He did Bible translations, and he tried to start schools. We lived in the bush. We were, it was not a third world country. It was like a 10th world country, and we lived in the bush. We had grass walls, a tin hut. Great place to grow up, though. We lived over there till I was about 10 years old, and then moved to the United States and moved from the bush to Seward, Nebraska, which not a lot of similarities there, but loved growing up in Nebraska. Stayed there through junior high, high school, and college. And then, with testimony-wise, I've never not known who Jesus is. I've grown up in a strong Christian family and having a missionary for a dad. I knew who Jesus was. I don't think I really had a relationship with Christ, though, until I got to college. That's where I knew I had a lot of knowledge, but I didn't have a relationship. I tell my athletes all the time, I'll ask them, who's your favorite athlete? And they'll tell me, Michael Jordan, or some great famous athlete. And I'll say, well, you know a lot about that person, right? And they'll say, yeah, they do. And I go, well, but if you went to that person's house and knocked on the door, would they let you in? No. Well, it's because you don't have a relationship with them. And there's a lot of Christians like that, a lot of people like that. So when I went to college, I went to a Christian college in Nebraska, Concordia University in Nebraska there, and met some wonderful people who helped disciple me. And I got married in college to a beautiful woman, and we were married 5 years. And then she passed away right around our 5th year anniversary. And I'm telling you this part of my testimony because it was at that point where I developed a relationship with Christ. I married a Christian woman. But it was at that point when heaven became personal to me. I don't know if you've ever, when you go to communion, it's called sometimes communion of the saints, right? Or you commune with believers that are here and that are with Christ. And so heaven became personal for me. And at that point, it changed from having a relationship with Christ to now starting to become, Lord, how can I be a disciple? How can I tell other people about where my wife is now, and how can I be a part of other people knowing that? So that led into a number of different ministry opportunities, including where I'm at now. But I can look back on my life and see how God put purposeful things and people in my life to prepare me for what He wanted me to do. I believe in Romans 8:28 it says, in all things God works for the good of those who love Him. We skip over that second word a lot. In all things God works for the good of those who love Him. I can look back and see how people were preparing me to do what God wanted me to do, which I had no idea at the time, but I can look back and see that. So that's my basic testimony there on how I became a Christian.
And so that was a lot college years
Yeah.
right after. Where would you just say, from the standpoint of your faith, and you mentioned you had a more of an understanding of heaven and a personal relationship. How would you say that played out in your Christian life? What things did you have you grew up as a missionary kid.
Yeah.
Did you have, thoughts of missionary, being a missionary at any point, or going back to school, or did you find your lane in, I don't know if you were coaching already at that point, but I guess the question is, where do you feel like that took you spiritually, or did it take a while for that to sort of come to fruition after that such a tragic event?
Yeah, I had started coaching when I graduated with my undergraduate degree. I was hoping to go be a Christian. I wanted to teach and coach at a Christian school, high school. That's what I thought my goal was going to be. But God had a lot different things in mind. So I started coaching at Concordia University, where I'd graduated from. I was coaching there and started to teach there, and then was also a resident director there, basically like a dorm dad there. And I did that for our first 5 years of marriage as I started to go to grad school. University of Nebraska was about 30 miles from our home, and so I drove 2 or 3 times a week to the university, to Lincoln, Nebraska, and while I was earning my master's and PhD. And that 30-mile road, there was a lot of prayer during those drives. Usually praying that I wouldn't quit grad school, but a lot of praying about how God was going to use me, and how just how where God wanted to lead me and how God was going to use me. So to answer more of your question, though, a lot of those experiences started preparing me for being more vocal. And in the I was raised in the Lutheran Church. Admittedly, I would say it's very internal. It's not as external as other denominations. And so that process, that whole process of all those things happening to me, kind of made me realize I need to. My faith can't be just mine. It needs to be. I need to share it with other people. I just had to figure out how in the world I was going to do that. The opportunity, after my wife passed away, I was given many opportunities to share that story, and through that was in 1995. By 1998, I had started a speaking ministry called Trust Guy Ministries, and I've been doing that now for 27 years as kind of a hobby, a fun thing, a really fun thing to do. But I could see how that particular instance or that particular experience really started shaping me on the message that I was going to have through that speaking ministry, and then how I was going to use that as a coach, and then later now as an athletic director.
Because I think I quoted you in one of your articles or something you wrote, that people would say they wanted you to come back and speak again, and then you say, that's all I got. And is that sort of what opened the door to, hey, let me develop this speaking and go talk more about who God is and how faithful He is. So tell us a little bit about that, because I'm sure you got to that point of like, that's it.
Yeah. So even getting started in that was kind of crazy. The chaplain at the university that I was working at, he came to me and he said, hey, I need you to come and speak in chapel. I've never been so busy. I have all these students coming to me and saying, why did God have that difficult thing happen to him? And why does God have bad things happen to good people and all this stuff? You need to come and share in chapel. And I was like, gosh, I don't think so. I don't really want to do that. But he prayed for me, and sometimes maybe even against me. And I shared in chapel a 15-minute message. This was such a long time ago, they put it on a cassette tape. And I made copies of that cassette tape, and I sent it to all our friends and relatives who were constantly praying for me and calling me and worried about me. And so I sent it to them. And then about a month later, someone I had been working with came up to me and said, I've got a big problem. I'm leading the Nebraska youth gathering, and I had someone coming to speak for us on Friday night, and they backed out. And I'm like, okay, that's tough, but what do you want me? How am I going to help you? So, could you please come and take his place? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not a speaker. I don't do that. So, no, I heard your chapel. Your chapel is really good. Could you come and just share that message? And it's about an hour. And I said, that was 15 minutes. And I told her no. And that was on a Monday. I told her no. But I couldn't sleep on Monday night and Tuesday night. I was becoming convicted about it. And so on Wednesday, I told her yes, and I would do it. I had 15 minutes prepared, went up there, and an hour later, the Holy Spirit had me pray, and I walked off the stage, and I thought, glad that is done. I will never want to do that again. That was very, very difficult. But that talk just led to other people asking me to come and share, and I did that talk. It's on trust, and I did that talk for about 3 or 4 years. And then people would ask me to come back, and I'd say, that's it. You heard my thing. So I had to come up with other stuff. I admire pastors because they have to come up with new stuff every week. Speakers don't do that. Speakers come up with a new audience. That's what they do. So I have got like 5 or 6 main talks that I can use pretty much with any group or any theme or whatever. And I just that's what I do.
What developed your love for athletics? Because obviously you were coaching and then getting into overseeing all of athletics for CBU. But is there something that right after you got done playing, maybe in high school and college, saying this is where I want to be, this is where I feel like I can really help these student athletes?
Well, I said I was a missionary's kid. There's not much athletics in Papua New Guinea. When I moved to the United States, even as a third grader, I realized I could tell the importance of athletics. And to make friends, my parents signed me up for all the local sports teams and stuff. So I had to learn. I learned really quickly how much of an impact it has in our culture, and I loved it. I'm very competitive. I just loved competing. I played any sports that I possibly could. In high school, I ran cross country and I played basketball and did track. I told Kellen in basketball, I would have much rather been a college basketball player, but I was not blessed with the nice height and athleticism that Kellen has here. I told him I had the unique ability that I was small but slow. But I ran, and I was good enough to run in college, and so I just had so many coaches pour into me, some Christian, some not, but even the ones that weren't Christian helped me develop in some way, shape, or form. And I just started to think, boy, I would just love to be paid to teach sports. That would just be a great thing. So that's kind of where that all developed. Just the people that had an impact on me, and I had no desire to be an athletic director. There is nobody alive that has ever said, maybe if I play my cards right, if the stars all align, I can be an administrator someday. No one has ever said that. But it just kind of happened. Yeah, somebody's got to do it. So I coached for 17 years, coached basketball and track, but mostly basketball for 17 years. And when we got out of coaching, I got into administration, was the administrator it was called a headmaster. That's a Texas term. You're from Texas, right? Headmaster, it's just the definition of that is grouchy old man. But I was headmaster at Lutheran South Academy, which is a really rich Christian school in Houston. And I was doing that for 2 years and then got called to CBU to be the athletic director there.
And so you've been at CBU total. I know there's 2 stints there, but total. 2009
to 2020, I was the athletic director there. And very unique job there, too, because I've had 3 jobs at CBU, all athletic director. But I was an NAIA athletic director, an NCAA Division II athletic director, and now an NCAA Division I athletic director. There's not many people who have that experience of being a director at those 3 levels, and especially at the same school. But that's from 2020. And then I left California in 2020 as COVID was happening. I had an opportunity to go take a job in the middle of Iowa. You may think, wow. My family and I, we really value education, and our kids, we watched what COVID was doing to our kids educationally. My kids were not going to be able to survive going to school in their room and on a computer. And so we prayed about it and looked around and thought, well, this is probably going to be a professional step backwards, but we had an opportunity to go be a vice president of athletics at a small Christian school in Iowa. And we did that, and it was like a whole different world. we had all our sport. We had all our classes were open. We didn't close down anything. It was just a different world. I talked to my friends back here in California. I'm like, I don't know, you guys are living in a different universe. But it was a great opportunity for us and for my family. I was there 3 years. Thought I would stay there and probably retire there, and then CBU called me to come back.
Yeah, and just if you don't know, or not familiar with sports, so Division I is the highest level when you think about college sports, just from size and of the school, and just even athletes wanting to go to top tier schools. That is your Division I school, and even within Division I, there's levels of that, the conferences and stuff like that. But it's been cool to see, just from outside looking in, CBU go from NAIA to Division II and to Division I, and you were there being a part of all of that. This is a broad question, but I guess, what are the biggest challenges you see for student athletes today versus maybe even just 10 years ago? What are they challenged with more so than they were before?
I think, having worked with, we have 535 student athletes on our campus, 21 teams. I think right now their biggest struggle is what their identity is. Their identity for a long time, and we have some solid Christians on our campus as athletes. You don't have to be a Christian to go to CBU. It's a ministry for us. But their identity has been, for so long, 10 years or more, their identity is their sport. And so even if they are Christian, even if they know who Jesus is, their sport is such a big part of their life that we want to pour into them, and hopefully they'll start to see that, this athletic endeavor that I'm participating in is awesome, but God has so much more for me, in store for me than this. And I joke with all our athletes. I said, do you know how blessed you are? When I talk to my basketball players, do you know how blessed you are to be here? We're paying for you to be here because you can put a leather ball in an iron hoop. I mean, how weird is that? And encourage them to use the blessings that they have at CBU and realize what God is going to use, how God is going to use them. So I think it's their identity. That's one of the 3 things I'm asking you to pray for me at the end, that our student athletes would truly start to understand their identity in Christ and not in these worldly things. And then, boy, even in the last 10 years, the things that young people have to fight against right now is just so challenging and so difficult. In the world of sports, we're dealing with the trans issue. We're dealing with, so many different outside influences. We're dealing with the internet and dealing with cell phones, and our coaches are trying to build a cohesive teams, and it's so hard because our athletes are being pulled away in so many different, in different ways. So just continually trying to bring them back to who they are in Christ and what God has called for them, and the fact that they're able to participate in a sport is just a bonus.
Yeah. And you mentioned like the trans issue. Let's just look at that as your role as vice president of athletics. What's your hand in that? Just trying to obviously manage the athletic program at CBU with something like that. I mean, it was right up in San Jose State with the volleyball team. So it's right here in our backyard, if you will. How do you try to influence that and impact and make sure that you do what you can to protect the sport, the school?
Well, one of the things we try to teach our student athletes is to not be deceived. And that right now in our culture is one of the biggest deceptions that you can think about. I mean, Satan is called the great deceiver, the father of all lies. He's not called a good deceiver or above average deceiver. He's called the great deceiver. So making our student athletes aware of all the different ways that they could be deceived is just a really important thing. You mentioned the San Jose State. We played them. Actually, and I spoke with our volleyball team afterwards to talk to them about it, because I told them, this is coming. You're going to be a mom and an aunt and a grandma, and this is not going away. You are going to have to stand firm for what you believe, and you're going to have be ready, get prepared. The Bible tells us that we need to be prepared to give our testimony and be prepared to back up what we believe and why we believe it. but to not be deceived. And that's so hard. It's so hard to stand firm on something and yet still try to do that with grace and love.
And if you're not familiar with that, and correct me if I'm wrong in an area, but San Jose State had a male that was trans and playing on the female volleyball team and dominating, if you can imagine. And some of the San Jose State volleyball players, they said, we're not playing. A lot of other teams said, we're not even sending the girls out there, so they just forfeit the game. And so it was a big mess. And I didn't know you guys played them, but I can imagine that was a lot of prep and just follow up with that conversation. I guess what specific things are happening at CBU to prepare the students or to continue to teach them God's word? Obviously, it's coming from you, maybe in one-on-one conversations, but is there something in place that the coaches are preaching to them about? And is there a regular activity? I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we only hire practicing Christians. That's the first thing. That's the first thing there. But it's part of their job. Their coaches, it's part of their job. They need to see it as a ministry. So I actually evaluate them on not just how successful they are being on the court or in the pool or on the field, but we evaluate them on how their athletes are doing academically, that they're graduating. But then it's very, very important for us that our student athletes perceive that their coaches care about their spiritual lives. And so our coaches, when they meet with them, they're going to talk to them about three things. They're going to talk to them about competing in the classroom, about competing in their sport, but also, how's your faith life? How are things? How's your prayer life? Are you paying attention in chapel? Where are you going? Where have you decided to go to church? Because we tell them all the time, chapel is not church. Chapel is important, but it's not church. Our mission in the athletic department is to honor Christ through excellence in athletics, and that's based on Romans 12:1 and 2, which says, basically, it says this, in view of God's mercy, offer yourselves as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is a reasonable act of worship. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world. So our coaches base what they're doing with our student athletes off the court on that Bible verse, that we want to honor Christ through being as excellent as we can. So every team is different on how they do that, but most of them do regular devotionals with the team. I bring in speakers as much as I can, so they're not always listening to me. And then being at CBU, you can't help but be impacted with the chapel speakers there, the faculty members there, because we have faculty that are teaching them a subject, but they're infusing Christ into that subject matter too. So they get a lot of it. Hopefully they can have an impact our coaches can have a big impact on them spiritually too. Yeah.
And how do you get the student athletes prepared for, because obviously, Division I sports.
Yeah.
So you're at the highest level of competition, and competition, can breed pride and envy and all of these things. Along with the coaches, is there things that you specifically want the students to have before they go out there and compete and, lose sight of what their mission is, right? What they're there to do. I guess, how are you installing structure and ways to keep them focused instead of getting so taken aside with competition?
We try to ask them things like, who are you competing for? Hopefully they eventually get to the point where they're competing for an audience of one. The structure at CBU, whether you're a student or a student athlete or a student, the structure at CBU, because Jesus is infused in everything that we're doing there, it's natural. It becomes a natural thing and a natural progression. But in athletics, what we try to stress to our student athletes is, if somebody comes to watch us play for the first time, will they notice that we're different? Will they see that we're going to compete hard? We are going to try to win. We're going to try to win. There's nowhere in the Bible to say, try to get second. Just try to be average. So we're going to compete hard, but would somebody come and watch us play and think they're different? There's something different about them. So that's a huge question, Kellen. I think really everything we do, we start with that mission, and if it doesn't fit that mission, then we're not going to do it. And we're not perfect, and we fail a lot, but we are really excited when we see spiritual victories. Last week, I had one of our basketball players told me that, hey, I just gave my life to Christ, and that was more exciting to me than when we beat somebody we shouldn't beat. And he's going to get baptized, and that's going to be a fantastic thing to see. It's great for our coaches to see that too, because they can see that, we're making a difference here in the lives of our student athletes.
Right, and I love hearing that. Here's another way to phrase the question a little bit better for you is you look at schools like TCU. I'll just take my home state schools: TCU, Texas Christian University, right? SMU, Southern Methodist University, and these schools, they're Christians by name. Let's call it what it is, right?
Yeah.
Because somewhere along the way, they had a good model and say, hey, this is what we want because this is our name.
Right.
And then now you look at the school, they're no different than a secular school, only that they have the name. And most of those schools are trying to get the name out, as we talked about a little earlier. They want to get the name out because it's a barrier to them.
Yeah.
I guess the trying to simplify that question for you and make it less broad. How are you guys at CBU? Because it sounds like what you're saying and the focus is great. How do you prevent, to the best of your ability, getting to, well, it's just only Baptist by name. It's only Christian by name. Like, I guess, that's more of my question I'm trying to ask.
The biggest thing for me, and the most important thing that I do as an athletic director, is hire and fire. Is have the right people on the bus. We have grown so fast at CBU, and one of the things I'm really proud of to be associated with them is, even though we've grown so fast, we've maintained our Christian identity. Our president says we are a college and university now committed to the Great Commission, and that's not changed. When he came there was 808 students or something like that. It was going to die. It was ready to die. When I came in 2009, they had 4,000 students, and they were just thrilled because they had doubled in size over 2 or 3 years. Now we'll go over 12,000 students this fall. But I really do believe, regardless of what your mission is, whether you're running a company or whatever you're in charge of, it's who you hire. If they are aligned with you mission-wise, then you're gonna maintain what you believe. When you start hiring people that don't believe, it would just be like this church here. If all of a sudden you started hiring people that weren't on the same page theologically, well, then it's going to change. Your church is going to change. It's going to become more worldly. That's a challenge. It's really hard to stay true to that, but we believe part of our growth has been because we've stayed true to that. I mean, who needs another liberal college? So we've stayed true to who we are, and I think God has blessed that, and people have been attracted to coming to CBU because they're searching for that. So really, it's the hiring process that's critical.
Yeah, and you're exactly correct on that. I can see that now that you framed it up. Yes, same thing with anything, church, business. You start to hire based on outside of character first, then you just have no idea where it's going to go.
Yeah.
That's great. NIL, we talked a little bit about that. So name, image, likeness. So now college athletes. I missed the boat on this, I guess. I'm kidding. But they're getting paid, some of them, millions of dollars because, their last name is catchy, or, they're part of a great family. And like Manning, Peyton Manning at Texas, his nephew plays there. So all of a sudden, all the money and all these endorsements, because it's like, if I can get this kid to represent my company, then wow, it'd be a game changer, right? So now students they were getting paid under the table beforehand. Now it's just on top of the table. They're making it very clear. So now you deal with not only, the competitive psyche that you have to deal with, but now these kids can go make money. So they can be at CBU, and another college can say, hey, we'll give you, $100,000 if you come over here and play for our school. Well, $100,000, kids like, I'm in. And so there's no loyalty anymore because of this whole, we pay people, now you can transfer to schools without penalty. So NIL, name, image, likeness, is something that is just plagued all of college sports, and it's completely changed it.
Yeah.
Knowing that that's there for all of your students, talk to us a little bit about how that's impacted your students and even what you guys have to protect against, I guess.
It is crazy. Our world has been turned upside down. NIL is just an excuse to pay players. The majority, there's 362 Division I universities. The vast majority, 98, 99% of those universities don't make money athletically. It's an expense. Now, schools and universities think that it's a good expense, and we think it's a good expense at CBU, but it's an expense. So we don't have revenue to give to our student athletes. It's just an excuse now for donors to just, okay, great, I can directly pay these student athletes to come to my school. So it's been a really difficult thing. We've had numerous athletes that have done really well at CBU, and then they're offered six figures to go to a bigger school and play there. Some have left, and some have stayed. It's just a reality. It's nothing we can do about it. We have to play in that space too. We're just playing on such a smaller level than you mentioned. Arch Manning, he's like $8 million. That's some of these athletes would make more money staying in college than they will going to the pros. So it is what it is. When we recruit, that we go up against that a lot, and some of our athletes will decide to go to a different school because they're going to get paid, and that's okay. We want to get people that want to be, all in at CBU. But if someone gets an opportunity like that, and you almost got to just say, well, you can't blame them for leaving and taking that opportunity. We had 6 baseball players 2 years ago go into Power 4 conferences from CBU. We have a really good baseball team. There's nothing we can do about it. We just have to adjust, and that means recruit some more kids and coach them up and work with what we got. But it is a challenge. Our coaches are under a lot more stress. All coaches at the Division I level are under a lot more stress to not only coach and win, but now they have to raise a lot of money. And in the past, the money that was raised either by me or our development people or our coaches, that money that was raised was put into the program to help the program. Now our coaches can't do that. They need to take the money and pay the players. So it's just a weird time, but I don't think it's ever going away. Right. And you missed out. You missed out.
I could have. Might have got $75. That's about it. Nothing to write home about.
95% of the athletes, they're not getting paid significant money. They're not. It's the highest level ones, and the bigger conferences are doing that.
Yeah. So I would have got 0. What you saying?
But it's
not even 75.
It's a horrible business. It's a horrible business model because you hear about revenue share and everything. Well, most of those schools there's revenue, but there's not profit. There's a big difference. For that, it's just an excuse to pay the players.
Yeah, and it's going to keep going down because now they're publicly paying college players, which means they're just privately paying these high schools students to get them prepared to go to the school that they want to do. So they'll just keep paying under the table at different levels, which is sad, but it's the way of the world.
Yep.
Unfortunately. What is? Love to hear this. Out of all the things that you do. What gives you the biggest satisfaction about your job? What keeps you going? What's the biggest challenge that you have? So both sides of it. Would love to hear that.
The most rewarding is, I said about our basketball player that gave his life to Christ. Those are the most rewarding moments. There's a picture that I have it's of a cross-country runner, and I ran cross-country. No one ever watches cross-country. I mean, you couldn't even get my girlfriend or my parents to come and watch that. But I have a picture of this young man, my second year as athletic director there. He's winning the conference race, and he has his hands up and he's pointing to the sky. And most people didn't understand this, but he had just been baptized 3 weeks earlier, and so he won that race, but he won a much bigger race 3 weeks earlier, and he was acknowledging God when he crossed the finish line. That's awesome. But I also love. I said I'm very competitive. I love it when we beat people we shouldn't. That is so fun. I'm telling you, it is so fun. And now with the NIL stuff, I mean, we don't know exact numbers, but we can pretty much have a general idea that, like, okay, we just beat that team there, and they have over $1 million in NIL, and we have nothing close, nothing close to that. So I thoroughly enjoy doing that. I love watching athletes overachieve. I just think that's so fun because it's so fun for them when they do something they've never done before, when they accomplish something they've never done before. We have goals. I'll try to not go down too much of a tangent here, but our goals in our athletic department with our coaches are, number 1, to develop, number 2, to have fun, and number 3, to win. But we define fun. There's giggle fun, and that happens from time to time, but we define fun as taking something hard and doing it well. That's the most fun. And athletes will tell you that the most fun they had was when they won and they shouldn't have. It's not when they just clobber somebody. So for me, it's the same way for me and my whole staff. So I have 95 full-time employees in our athletic department, and they are all helping our student athletes achieve, whether they're a coach or working in another capacity. I love it when our teams achieve and win a conference championship or beat somebody that they shouldn't beat. Everybody kind of takes pride in that. Our academic counselors are proud of that because they see the athlete that they're working with. Our facility people are proud of that. Our compliance people are proud of that. Everybody that has a hand in helping our student athletes achieve, that's so much fun. So those are some fun things. Challenges. Yeah, our culture we feel like we're trying to swim uphill. We are definitely counterculture, and so that's a challenge. Dealing with the NCAA right now with the NIL stuff and how easy it is to transfer now, that's a challenge. Supporting our coaches is a challenge. Thankfully in Riverside there's no tall bridges, so there's nowhere to jump off if they get upset. But coaching is such a roller coaster. It's so emotional up and down. And while I'm not coaching athletes directly anymore, I think my job is more to coach our coaches and remind them, that they're not as good as they think they are, and they're not as bad as they think they are. I always have to keep them in mind and keep them focused on what our overall mission is. So those are some big challenges. I also, with our coaches, a big challenge is the amount of time they have to put into being a successful coach at the Division I level is immense.
And the recruiting.
It's immense. The amount of time they have to put in. So, trying to help them remember that they're still a father or a mother or a husband or a wife, and try to keep those things in perspective as much as they can. And that's a challenge for me because if they're not successful, then they're not going to be at CBU. So I've got to help support them be successful, and I've got to help support them enjoy it too along the way. The big challenges, yeah.
Those are hard challenges, and yeah, I think even for coaches, most people see them, during season, but there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
Outside season and the off season that they're constantly on. And I mentioned I had a buddy of mine that he coached at Longwood. He's university is now at Florida Atlantic, but he said he worked for a coach one time that basically, I think I might be misquoting, but he's multiple marriages, and he told his staff, it's like, if you want to be a good, successful coach, then those things they come and go. And it's like he's a believer, and it's like, no, it doesn't have to be that way.
No.
But you have people that are in that industry as coaches, and they think that. They just think this is my priority, and everything else, either you run with it or you're not. And that has to change, and the mindset has to be what you talked about. Is like, we need to focus on Christ first and be faithful there, and everything else will go according to His plan.
One of the things that we've been battling too, really like the last 20 years, is to keep as many things as possible off Sundays. And even when we recruit, we'll tell our student athletes, like, you have Sunday off. I think it's important that not only our student athletes, but our coaches, they have a day where they're not competing or going to class or traveling. Now, as we went up to Division I, some of our sports, when they get to conference, have to compete on Sundays. It's just part of their schedule, and that's hard. And our coaches can't stand it. Once they start doing that, it's really, really really, really hard and very difficult. But as an administrator, I can still try to keep as much as possible off of Sundays, so my staff has time to worship and have a day off, time to just get away, honor the Sabbath and keep it holy. It's in the top 10, right? It's in the 10 for a good reason. It's to help us step back, rest, focus on Christ, and help prepare us for the week.
And I think that's so important because what you're dealing with at the college level, a lot of these kids growing up nowadays, that's where they want to get. They want to go to a Division I school. And unfortunately, now it's starting in youth sports. I mean, it's 7 days a week. They got tournaments on Sunday and all of those things. And so if you're not careful with it early on, then you'll completely just lose sight of, again, what our main objective is, what our main mission is here, and it's Christ. Sports are good, but we can't lose sight of that. And I think the world is constantly trying to get us there. But it's just Sunday. You can do it Sunday morning. You can go to church at any point. It's like, no, we're going to protect this, and it's important. I'm glad to hear you guys are doing that. That's encouraging. As we wrap it up, I'd love to for you to share. I know you got 3 adult children. But tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah. So, like I said, I've been unfairly blessed. A couple of years after my first wife passed away, I met a wonderful, beautiful Christian young lady, and we got married. We've been married for 27 years now. Her name is Amy. Wonderful, just unfair blessing in my life. We have 3 kids. My oldest daughter, Emma, is in medical school. She's in her 4th year of medical school. She's actually doing a month-long rotation at the Navy Hospital in San Diego, and she's got to do 10 one-month rotations around the country in her last year here, so we're excited she's in San Diego for a month at least. And then my son Jonah just graduated from CBU, and he's trying to find a job. He just did a 10-month internship at Focus on the Family in Colorado Springs, and he's hoping and praying that he can get a job there. If not, right now he's working at Jersey Mike's, and so.
It's my favorite sandwich place.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So Mike's Way.
It's fantastic. However, maybe not the great career. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. We're praying about that. And then we have our youngest daughter, Gracie, is a senior in high school at Woodcrest Christian in Riverside. So we're almost empty nesters. So I don't know what my wife's. She's going to struggle with that. Just being me at home, she's gonna struggle with that. She's gonna struggle with that. So that's a little bit about our family. So
one more question, just personal life. If you're not at the office on campus, you and Amy and the kids, what's an ideal thing, a fun thing for the Parker family? What do you guys enjoy doing in your free time?
With my job, I don't have a lot of free time. I don't have hobbies. My family understands that. I work out. If I have free time, I work out. And so my family, if we have free time, we usually go for walks. And my kids throughout their life, have sometimes not enjoyed that, but as they've gotten older, they can look back and see that that's been a good thing. Because when we're out walking, we just talk about a lot of different things. So, but my kids love to eat. So, a treat for them has always been, going out to eat as a family. Cause that's
got a favorite restaurant out there in Riverside?
Oh, gosh. I love Mexican food. There's a place called Ancho's in Riverside that is unbelievable. It's somewhat of a hole in a wall. It's not a chain restaurant. That's probably my favorite, but I like Mexican food. So living in Southern California, that's the absolute best. When we moved to Iowa,
not so much. It's like getting sushi in Iowa.
Wow, yeah, that was. Now the meat was fantastic in Iowa, but that's. So we like to go out to eat, and we do a lot of family walks.
Excellent. Well, you mentioned your prayers, and one of the things that we love to do here and are committed to do for all the people that bless us with the time like you are and let us hear a little bit more about you is to continue to pray for you. And so
thank you.
We want to do that. We'll put the prayers up here, but I'd love to have you verbalize them a little bit more. Tell us a little bit about what you've asked for.
Yeah, so these are the first one's a selfish one. I've got surgery on September 18th. I've got a cancer on my ear. So they're going to take away the top rim of my ear here. So my modeling career is over.
No NIL
they're
money
gonna-
for you on that.
They're going to take that out, and then taking 3 lymph nodes out of my neck. So my prayer would be that there would be no cancer in those lymph nodes, and that the reconstruction goes fast. I will get very grouchy not being able to work out or run just because of my ear. The second thing would be I said to pray for our student athletes and their identity. We have them for 4 years, and now with NIL and transfers, sometimes we have them for 2 years or 3 years or less. And so I try to stress to my coaches that the gospel is an urgent message. It's an urgent message. So the time that we have them there, that their identity would start to turn from their sport to have an identity in Christ. And then my family there, I'd said that our kids are at a later stage in life for us as far as being in the home, and that we'll be empty nesters soon, and that we can glorify God through that. And I'm sure God will find us some different time. There'll be more time because our kids won't be in the home, but God will fill that with something, hopefully, that'll be a blessing.
Well, we're so grateful that you spent time with us this morning, and so I'd love to give Dr. Parker a round of applause, please.
Thank you.
And then let me start by praying for those things, and then we'll continue to do that, and we will dismiss with that. But let me pray. God, we are so grateful for the way you have allowed your message, your gospel, to continue to go out to reach many people. Lord, we know that you called us before we've taken our first breath. Lord, you know those who are yours. You are using them as your vessels and instruments to preach the good news of the gospel, to stand firm in the midst of a world that is continuously growing more and more dark. Lord, I thank you for the lampstand and the lights that you have planted at Cal Baptist University, like Dr. Parker. Lord, I pray that you would just continue to give him boldness, conviction to stand firm with the truth in the midst of everything going on. Even as we read today in our daily Bible reading, 1 Corinthians 15, that he would be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that none of this labor will come back in vain. Lord, I pray that you would encourage him to continue to do that. As many schools are going the way of the world, paying people and getting their eyes focused off of other things than the most important thing, Christ. Lord, allow him to lead this athletics department well, to focus on Christ, to hire the right people that are focused on Christ. And Lord, I pray that this next generation of student athletes, that they would be different out of CBU, and that they would go out and affect change in this world because of the faithfulness with people and leaders in place like Dr. Parker. So just pray that you would give him grace even in this upcoming surgery. Allow the surgeons to have the wisdom that they need to do a good job. I pray that everything would come back clear and you would allow him to recover well. Pray for his family. Just bless his wife, Amy, as she just continues to be his helpmate through all of this. Bless his children. I pray that they would all be walking with you and that you would use them in a mighty way. So thank you for just his time here today, just opening our eyes to more of what's going on with the youth of in our country and in our area, and even these athletes that are entrenched in the middle of a lot of dark things. But Lord, we know that even these student athletes can be a great light for your glory and your honor. And we pray that you would allow CBU to do great things for your church and your kingdom. And we give you all the thanks and glory in Jesus' name. Amen.